we're here with Tarek Arafat. I'm excited about this one. He quit his job to make an app. In 9 months, he's got it up to 2,500 paying subscribers.
By the time a reservation gets to Resi, it truly is bottom of the barrel. Like, what people have been doing is they've been weaponizing tech to create bots that grab the reservation and they sell them. We created an interactive pitch deck, and within 48 hours, we had $400,000 of interest just from our users. We had some guy who went to, it was a place in New York called the Corner Store. It's like pretty new. And that was the night that Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and Blake Lively showed up. Yeah. And he's just there with all of his friends. He was like, dude, you made me look like the coolest person in the world because
All right, we're here with my boy Tarek Arafat. He quit his job as a data engineer to make an app. And in 9 months, he's got it up to 2,500 paying subscribers. So we're going to learn about how he did that. We're going to learn about how he used vibe coding to raise his first round of funding. And he's going to just take us through the journey. It's pretty cool. I'm excited about this one. So yeah, sit back and enjoy this. I need a name for these interviews, I think. Tarek, if you have any ideas, I'm all ears.
A name for these interviews?
Yeah, I don't know. Vibe Founders or something?
Yeah, just call it like Vibe Out or something.
Vibe Out.
Like that.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
All right,
That's
so here we
not
go.
bad, right?
First episode of Vibe Out with Tarek. Tarek, I mean, tell us, I really quick, I guess, start at kind of quitting your job to start this app and what the app does and how you found a co-founder.
Yeah, man. I guess it's kind of a weird, it's like a weird array, right? So it's like I found the co-founder while I was building another company, and then we built the products for about a year prior to then us leaving our jobs. And then it was probably another 9 months after that until we started making money. So it was like a little bit of a weirder thing, but I met Frank at a birthday party. So it was like, random Saturday out at a bar in New York, just another dude who liked talking about startups and side projects. He was building some other stuff. Long story short, like 3 margaritas later, he was just like, dude, I kind of like what you're working on. Like, and it was another company at the time called Den. And he's like, dude, I'd love to come and work with you on it. So I was like, all right, just met you, but bold sounds good. Like, we can meet on Thursday if you want. And the thing about the other company that, I was building at the time, and, I was building it with a bunch of my friends, which I feel like is kind of mistake number one for a lot of people, is like they just hire their friends.
Right.
And so, and my friends were, they're super smart. They're super great at what they do. It's just, we kind of did everything but build the company. We kind of did like the pitch deck, and then I hired a designer, and I hired all the things. And we got the YC interview, but like we never actually built a product. And then Frank 4 days later shows up to this interview, quote unquote, that he calls it. And he had found our Figma demo on YouTube, and like basically using screenshots he took, like built the app in 4 days. And like Rod, who was working with me at the time, he was like, hey man, I don't know what we need to do, but we need to hire this guy. Like, we need to give him whatever he wants and hire him. And I was like, I couldn't agree more. And so that was kind of how I met Frank. So he was the only guy building with me in New York.
You kind of didn't have an option because he built your product for you in 4 days, and you're like, whoa, I had nothing before.
He pissed off the guy who was their CTO, who now, he's doing great. He's at Google, so he's doing just fine. But
soft landing.
Very, very soft landing for him. But yeah, so I mean, Frank was always a doer, right? He was always kind of just getting stuff done, shipping things. And I think that at a certain point, when you're working in one of those teams that's kind of doing everything but building, you kind of get frustrated and momentum just like burns. So him and he had actually built what is now TableOne, which, if to describe what it is to everybody here, it's kind of like Skyscanner or Google Flights, just for the most exclusive restaurants in New York right now. So it's kind of real-time access to really make sure that you land that table. And he had built kind of the first version of that, I want to say like 3-4 years ago. And basically he offered it up to me just as a, hey, do you want to use this to get your girlfriend a nice reservation for her birthday? I was like, sure. And when I actually got like one of the reservations, which was Carbone, which is obviously like one of the coveted ones here, she kind of freaked out. And that was when we realized, oh, this is a really huge consumer problem, man. Like, we should go after this. So fully still at our jobs, fully still working in our other startup, we just launched what is now TableOne as a weekend project. And within 3 weeks, via Reddit, via word of mouth, and then one Instagram ad, we had 1,000 users in 3 weeks. That's kind of how we got started.
Dude, that's insane. I want to zoom in on the New York thing because we kind of buried the lead. Like you have 2,500 paying users, not globally, but in New York City, in one city. So
That's
talk
true.
to me
Yeah.
about like Carbone and like the restaurant scene and how being in like a restaurant, like elitist city kind of gave you this competitive advantage versus if you had launched it globally, which a lot of people I think try to scale right out the bat, whereas New York's kind of your testing ground.
Yeah, it was, you know what, it's so interesting because I think to your exact point, everybody tries to say, okay, well, they kind of try to solve for TAM immediately. They're like, oh, yo, I have to build for the biggest possible market, which means that you either have to build for every person on the planet and then every city on the planet. Like you basically are trying to optimize for volume, right?
Yeah.
But what people don't tell you is it's actually niche. Like the niche builders are the ones that really, really solve the problem and really, really get the viral traction within those little communities. And it's actually better to start small and then try to expand out. And I didn't really know that at the time. We kind of just lucked into it. But to your question about New York is a very, very rare dining scene, right? Where
Yeah.
it's kind of the epicenter of, I'd say, this post-COVID world where you have all these amazing, not even just Michelin star restaurants, but like hole-in-the-wall restaurants that are going viral overnight. I don't know, a martini that they have or some crazy dish. And New York has over 50 million people that come through every year just for travel. And these places, there's not a lot of space to be had, so they fill up very, very quickly. And it is kind of a coveted part of the city. Like the dining scene is it's culture, right? It's social. It's kind of how you go out, it's how you make friends. And I think for me when I first moved here, it was kind of a way that I felt like I was a part of the city. So realistically understanding, wow, the restaurants here and these specifically these top restaurants, it's something that everybody wants to try, but only a very, very
Yep.
few subset of people have the ability to because they have money to do that. And these reservations, when I started going down the rabbit hole of, well, why can't I get a reservation? They're being sold for hundreds, thousands of dollars. It wasn't built for access for the
Yeah.
typical 25-year-old I
So
was.
are the restaurants selling them or are people making reservations using their connections and then reselling them?
Yeah, it's interesting. So think of it like a funnel, right? It's like
Yeah.
restaurants have a lot of power, especially
Yeah.
these top restaurants. Like they typically have like a hotline with a standing list of regulars that they can call at any time, right? That's kind of tier one. Tier two is okay, they have some VIPs that are either coming in through like membership clubs. We're not even talking platinum cards yet, right? These are like standalone membership clubs that people pay like 5, 10, 15, $20,000 a year for
Wow.
oftentimes. And then comes the tiers of, okay, well, now you have a black card, now you have a gold or a platinum card, now you have a gold card. And then there's a funnel down there. By the time a reservation gets to Resi, it truly is, or Open Table, it's bottom of the barrel. Like you are scraping the bottom of the barrel. So by the time it gets there, it's gone within
Yeah.
seconds because people have now started to realize that the name of the game in order to get these reservations when it hits a Resi or an Open Table is speed.
Yeah.
So what people have been doing is they've been weaponizing tech, like they've been utilizing AI for a long time to monitor these pages to then create bots that fill basically like grab the reservation, and then what they do is they do go and they sell them, right, on a black market site, like on on in a Reddit thread
Yeah.
on Instagram, like they do, and it truly does become a price demand game of like, well, who's going to be the highest bidder? How much can I get for this thing?
Yeah. I totally anytime I'm in New York, right? If I pull out one of the reservation apps, not yours, and I'm trying to get a reservation like right through the restaurant, there's you're eating at 4 p.m. or 9 p.m. like prime dinner time. There's nothing. And so your app kind of helps people get notifications when those prime dinner time ones pop up, correct?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
then you kind of this whole like kind of system or phenomenon of New York dinner reservations is crazy, but you kind of hinted at earlier like what keeps it alive. And what I think is a key selling point of your app is it's a way for guys to impress their girlfriends or their dates, right?
100%. I mean, the crux of this, right? Like the origin story of Table One is like Frank, when he built it years before he met me, was trying to take his now wife, like when they were dating. he was trying to impress her by taking her to Carbone. And that's really where it came down to, because she's a massive foodie. She works in food. You know, Frank himself, like, loves food and loves the food scene, but Kelce was, I mean, she's like a fanatic about it. Same thing with my girlfriend Brooke. So it's like, it really is. It's a lever for people to pull socially. And I guess at the time, like, we didn't realize how desperately people were looking for these little wins, right? Like these little like things that just take it to the next level. It's not just a date; it's a date at this place. Yeah, it really is. It's a part of pop culture here, definitely.
So I might just share like your landing page real quick so people can get an idea of the app. But if I'm hearing you right, kind of your key things that you compete on are speed and aggregation, because reservations are sometimes split. Some are on other platforms, some are just on the restaurant site. Are
Right.
those kind of the two main things, or are we missing anything?
No, so yeah, I mean, essentially what this is you nailed it, right? It is speed and aggregation, but there's another piece to this, right? In the sense that when we think about the reservation platforms that exist today, you think Resi and OpenTable and Seven Rooms and Talk, whatever it is. These were companies that OpenTable was built in 2004 and Resi was built in 2014. And really what happened in this time is they were building a solution for restaurants, right? And they were trying to help them fill their dining scene in this digitized era of reservations. And really what happened there is these companies never ended up focusing on the consumer side of the equation because they weren't financially incentivized to do so. These were
Right.
always free products to individuals and whatever. And this was fine for the first 10, 15 years of operation, because at the end, the demand never eclipsed the supply, and to that extreme, right? I would say
Yeah.
to the extreme that it is now. But it could never really they can never really prepare themselves for the next 5 years after that, which was we went into a global pandemic where now the experiences as a whole are now not just desired, they're craved. And then you have this idea of, well, overnight, a hole in the wall can now go viral on not just Instagram with an influencer, but TikTok off of a random reel, right? Or random
Yeah.
TikTok. And you kind of have this perfect storm moment where, oh my God, so many people want to access these things, but there's the consumer side of the Resi, OpenTable, Seven Rooms, whatever. It wasn't built for that. So
Yeah.
it lacked speed and it lacked curation and it lacks a lot of these things that we have then come into the market and said, what we can do is we can actually play, like we said, right? Like kind of like the Google Flights equation. It's like we can play that kind of consumer side of the equation where you build for the consumer, but you're tapping into all of the platforms and grabbing the restaurants where really this is a problem. And that was kind of our thesis. In New York, obviously, there's tons and tons of, there's a never ending well of restaurants that have this problem and obviously open to blockbuster weeks that are then full for the next few months. But what was interesting, I think, as we continued to build Table One just in New York, we started to see people request other cities.
Yeah.
So people were requesting Vegas, they were requesting LA, SF, London, Miami, Chicago, Boston, DC, Philly. It's crazy how it started to unfold, and we kind of started to see the business being built in front of our eyes before
Yeah.
we even built it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just building it and expanding based on user feedback. And
Absolutely.
have you rolled out to any of those cities yet, or how are you thinking about that rollout?
So we beta tested in 8 of those cities last summer, just to kind of test demand, like you said, right? Test market demand, see kind of what's the pickup rate, because our whole thing is we pride ourselves at the time was we were bootstrapped, so we didn't spend any money on marketing because we kept doubling down on the product and we kept doubling down on the virality side of the product, right? So we incentivized referrals.
Yeah.
We, obviously optimized so
And
that
how do
people
you
could invite their
incentivize
friends.
referrals? What's the mechanic?
That's kind of the whole thing. So we kind of created a priority tier within
Uh,
our own system, but it's purely based on referrals to friends. So you had
yeah.
to refer, I think last summer you had to refer 10 people
Wow.
to Table One, and then only once 10 people came on, that unlocked your priority access. And it's to this day, right? It's like Table One is now a paid product. It is not something that you can buy. You can only do it by it's kind of making it hard. It's really leaving the priority spaces available for those that care and want it and are really like pushing the product and being our advocates. So yeah, that's kind of
What's
how
the
we
late? Is
promoted that
it
growth.
latency on the priority notifications, or is it specific reservations?
It's latency for the most part. We're actually building out. We're working with some pretty cool private chefs at the moment that are going to be releasing their own set of events on Table One, which is going to be pretty cool.
Cool.
So we're going to be giving those people like first dib access, just so that they can like. If there's a great chef that's hosting a dinner one night, like somebody who really wants to go, it's like, well, they're kind of first in line to get that, and then we'll release it later to the general like population, I suppose, of Table One. But yeah, there are a lot of different ways that we're working on it, but primarily right now it is latency.
Do you know what the average amount of referrals per user is?
Yeah, it's actually 3.7, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, so I want to say like in our first 6 months that we launched the referral program, it was even higher than that. It was almost around 5. And
Wow.
I mean, it had driven so much of our growth. And I think like, the cool thing about being bootstrapped, and I say bootstrapped lightly, the cool thing about being denied by so many VCs is that you kind of have to get smart, right? You kind of
Yeah.
have to flex your capital efficiency skills, and you have to be like, all right, well, we have to cut down on operating margin when it comes to our usage for whatever it is for the system. That means we can't have a marketing budget because we're paying out of pocket, especially when we left our jobs. So that kind of forces you to get creative as far as, well, how is this thing really going to grow? And it comes down to things like referrals, and then things like allowing friends to connect with each other and go to dinner. So yeah, we're lucky in that dining has a natural network effect, but
Yeah.
also
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You
also
sit
the
down at dinner with
referrals
six
huge.
people and they ask, "How'd you get these reservations, by the way?"
It's exactly right. Exactly. And I think I'm no stranger to the fact that we definitely leaned into that side of
Yeah.
things, but it was a way for us to grow in a time where we just didn't have money.
And then we didn't even get to the monetization yet, but what's your model for monetization and how did you guys arrive at that model and how does it compare to kind of other reservation apps?
Yeah. So our model is, because we are consumer facing, it is subscription, right? So we try to price it around the Spotify subscription. We're $15 a month now. We were $9 a month previously, but I think we kind of made some different changes we got rid of the annuals. We kept monthly, but we're different in the sense that we put the onus on the user, right?
Yeah.
Because how it's different in the space. There's a lot of different players that have come in and they've tried to solve this in a multitude of different ways. Resi and OpenTable and all of the big reservation platforms, they put the onus on the restaurant because
Right.
they're selling them table management software. They're selling them the iPad that helps you
They
set
don't care
people. And
about if the user stays. And
no,
to your point, I mean,
it,
they're not very sticky on the consumer side. I might use Resi one day and then forget about it for 6 months, or use OpenTable for the next one. I'm not really invested in it, you
exactly,
know?
right? But and then there are other people that came in and what they wanted to do is say, okay, great. Well, we think that this money belongs with the restaurants, which it definitely does, but they did it they kind of built it for a different type of consumer. So think about, all right, hey, we have a table tonight for 4, but it's going to cost you guys a minimum spend of $300 per person that you have to pay up front before you even get there. So it's like, before I even got to the restaurant, I just paid $1,200. Not everyone in, at least amongst our friends, Bill, I don't think anyone can really do that. I'm sure like one or two, and I'm sure maybe you, after you like sell another stupid simple app. But right now, it's really just, it's not the pricing model that makes sense to a lot of people, but subscription is becoming a very, very dominant pricing model for a very good reason. It's normalized. Obviously, it's great for business in terms of it becomes predictable revenue. For us, it's, you optimize for things like retention, but it also kind of makes the pricing more palatable for a person like me who,
Yeah.
we make good money, but I want to go to dinner sometimes, to your point, right? So there will be times where if I'm a user of Table One and we built it, this is, let's say you have your parents coming into town. It's like, great, I'll pay the $15 to try to get a great reservation. That's it. Next month, I'll hop off Table One.
Yeah.
I won't pay for the next 3 months. Maybe Valentine's Day comes around, I hop back on. I hop off, my birthday. It's supposed to be flexible. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be locking you in. It's not supposed to be trapping you. So that's really where I think we've seen a lot of success too, is because we've introduced a pricing model like that.
I'm interested. I don't think I've asked you this before. Do you ever hear from restaurant owners or managers? Are they aware of you guys, or does it all? I know it's meant to work without them knowing, but do you ever get
Yeah.
feedback?
Actually, yeah, we've gotten people asked to pay to be on Table One. The thing that I think restaurants really do understand with us is that we are helping them with a data problem. Because when you think about reservation selling that I was telling you about, what was happening in that case was like, you as Billy you were buying a reservation and then selling it to me, Tarek. So I'm showing up to the reservation though as Billy Howell. And I'm telling the restaurant, like, yeah, 7 p.m. tonight, Billy, party at 4.
Yeah,
And what that does is it screws up their dining room because they as a system, right? They keep data on you. They say, oh, well, he
yeah,
likes this, like
yeah,
he typically spends this, and that's important data for them to provide the best quality service that they can. Because at the end of the day, the number one cliche and why I feel a lot of people who've been in the reservation space, restaurant space particularly, I said this is the most frustrating thing about a restaurant is that they don't run their business like a business.
yeah,
Their business is hospitality service, and they don't really care. Their margins are thin as long as the person at the table is having a great dinner and they can optimize for that. Like that's what they want to do. So the way that we fix that is we ensure that when we do redirect you back to these platforms, you're booking with your own profile, which means that you are showing up to the restaurant as Tarek, as Billy. And for them, it's like that's important information. So yes, they have heard of us. Now, has every restaurant on Table One heard of us? No. But we've talked to a few of them just to gauge feedback. Like some were a little bit weird at first, and then we started to explain the value prop a little more, and they're like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like we're cool with this. Others are like, this is amazing, guys. Like amazing. So I think over time we'll start to have more of those conversations. But for right now, the answer is a little bit of yes, a little bit of no.
that's cool. Are there any, and I don't think I've asked you this either. I don't know how you guys would know, but are there like celebrities or like athletes or anyone using Table One? You guys ever hear about
It's
that?
it's so crazy, dude. We just had this CEO of Seven Rooms
Uh huh.
sign up for Table One. Seven Room just got bought by DoorDash for $1.2 billion.
Wow.
I'm like, what are you doing on? Also, you have restaurant connections. I don't know, maybe he's doing some competitor intel or something. The CRO of Reddit on Table One. We have Olympians. I mean, I don't know, influencers, dude. It's insane. I think what this experience of putting a paywall up has taught me is that there really isn't a magic trick to the reservation game. Like you
Yeah.
think that because you are famous and because you are wealthy, you will automatically just have doors open for you. And a lot of the times that can be the case, but it comes at a very, very steep price
Yep.
that I think there are some people in this world that, they have a lot of money, but they have a lot of money because they're good with their money. They don't
Yeah.
have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money because now it's like, oh, now it's time for me to drop 10 grand on a dinner. Like they have a lot
Yeah.
of money because they're smart with it. And if they find solutions that are serving them while saving them money, like they will go with those. And it's been awesome. And it's crazy to see that. And I think it's honestly it's been super cool. We have private chefs, famous chefs on there. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
And you got to think the restaurant game humanizes everyone. It's kind of an even playing field because even if you're an Olympian or some C suite that just exited, there's 5,000 people in New York more successful or well known than you that are going to get that,
Totally.
you know, four tables a night that are even open at the restaurant you want to go to. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because at the end of the day, right, they're humans, right? I think that's the thing is we forget that these people are real people, and they're real people with I guess monetary sense. So
Dude,
at the end of the day, right?
I think that's interesting because I think when you're building and you're so in the numbers and the data, it's hard to kind of keep in mind like these are real people just like me using the app, right? They're not just like computer
Yeah.
code. So, um, I don't know if you've thought about that or what you think.
Yeah. It's more just the craziness of like, damn, 2 years ago, this was a weekend thing that me and my buddy spun up, and
Yeah,
now we have, the CEO of one of the most powerful platforms in the space, like in the world, on it, and it's like he's using something that we built. It's kind of surreal in that regard. So I guess that it makes it more humanizing in that way because it kind of like, wow, we're kind of one and the same right now. But it's still weird.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's
Yeah.
not still weird, but it's definitely cool. Definitely cool to see it.
I got kind of one more question on the story.
Yeah.
So you're starting out on this app like a year ago or whatever, and I think you're probably feeling pretty exposed because you've quit your job to work on this. Did you make any big missteps, and how did you bounce back?
Yeah, the biggest misstep we made was we kept it free for too long.
Wow.
So I think it's there's good and a bad to releasing as a free product, right? There's a natural virality that comes with it because anybody can use the product, and then
Yep.
especially if it's a good product that you focused on and it works. I think like we've grown because of the efficacy of it. Like that, it's a great way to grow. You need to almost be very, very upfront that like, hey, eventually we are going to charge for this, and then put like a set date on it. So it's like it's communicated like first out. So I think we had I left my job at Yext March of 2024. The day that I left, I got a LinkedIn DM from a reporter at the New Yorker asking if he could talk to Frank and I about, what's going on in the reservation space, talking about the scalping. I think one of the big center points of his article was there was a kid at Brown who had made 80 grand in a year selling reservations, reselling reservations. And that was like a big point, and kind of talking about the pain points of the restaurants and all the platforms out there that wanted to fix it. And by the time that article came out in April of 2024, I think when I left, we had 6,000 people on TableOne. That article came out April of 2024, which then when that happened, we got 3,000 downloads pretty much overnight. That Wednesday, a reporter from a publication called Gothamist reached out to me wanting to talk about how our app had helped her get a crazy reservation.
Wow.
That gave us another 1,500 reservations, and then came like a windfall of like VCs and all these people. And then on the Friday, so that was a Monday, the New York article came out. The Wednesday, the Gotham article came out. Friday, I get a random call, literally a phone call. I don't even know how she got my number, but she's like, hey, can you meet me in the West Village at 5? I'm a reporter with Forbes and I have an article going out tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. So within the space of a week, we had 3 of these publications and we still had this free product. So we
Yeah.
scaled up by the end of the summer. I want to say, again, purely organic. We scaled up to about 25,000 people on the app, probably by the end of June, July. And by that time, it's like Frank and I have been without our jobs for like, now you're talking 3-4 months. Money is a little tight, and we haven't been able to raise funding because consumers kind of it's still a little bit of a death trap. I'd say it's kind of coming into light a little bit as far as investment perspective, but it's a little bit of a dead zone. So no money, no
So
funding,
you've
no
got
money.
you see it's everyone's startup dream. You get in these big publications, you see the user number go up to 20,000,
Yeah.
and you're sitting here thinking we should have asked some of these people to pay.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it, right? It's well, how are we going to make money, right? We tried
Yeah.
the ad model, we tried a lot of different
Oh
things that
wow.
we thought was going to work, and the reality is Frank and I, we come from data backgrounds. So the first thing that we did is, okay, well, let's go and look at the user behavior. How are they treating this? Are they treating it like a resi where they're coming in
Yeah.
like once in a while? Or is this more of a really engaged audience? And what we saw was that the majority of people were using us 3-4 times a week, not
Wow.
not only to book dinner, just to see what's up, just to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what's going on, right? Just to feel like they have the power to go to these places. And once we realized that, it's like, okay, great, this actually fits the bill for a subscription based product. And it was a little bit of a risk because obviously we hadn't told anybody that we were really planning on charging. So we kind of put out a message that was like, hey guys, we're going to charge. Sorry about it. And my God, like people were pissed. People were so
Really?
pissed. Yeah. Like if you go look at our app store reviews, geez,
Oh.
everyone is so mad. And it's not because the product doesn't work. I think that's the funniest thing about our app store
Yeah.
reviews is like, it's not because the product doesn't work. It literally was because these guys were like, this thing was free and now it's X dollars a month. And I'm like, screw these guys. And I'm just like, dude, I gotta live, man. Like I gotta like if you want this thing to keep existing, like you don't have to pay for it, but if you want this thing to keep existing, like we have to make money. So yeah, that was the biggest misstep by far. Frank will tell you the exact same thing. And then the last thing I would say, the biggest misstep is we got so eager and hung up on kind of these like big swings, I would call them. So one of the reservation platforms would hit us up and be like, guys, we want to do like a data partnership with you guys. And we would just stop working on everything because we got so zoned in and focused on getting this deal or trying to get this deal. And then
Yeah.
naturally, because they're a big, massive corporation, they are not really, there's not a lot of urgency on their side. So
Yeah.
they're fine to just kick it down the road. Meanwhile, we're losing all momentum and steam on our end because we're, God, why haven't we heard from them? It's been, now we're going on 8, 9 weeks. And that killed us. And same thing with investor conversations. We put way too much emphasis on investor conversations. And the moral of the story there is just focus on the product. Just focus
Yeah.
on building for the users, and then the rest of it will come.
Yeah. Wow. And that was a good misstep story.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Uh,
I've had a lot of them, honestly. So yeah, I'm going on now. This is year 3 of running this thing. So I finally feel like I kind of know what I'm starting to do, but I still feel like
yeah.
lost most days. So
I think most entrepreneurs can kind of empathize with that. I mean, if you asked me that question, your biggest misstep, I would be like, buddy, how much time do you have?
yeah, it was what. Well, you started building stupid simple apps. Like, what is your
Yeah.
biggest mess up?
Oh, I think pricing's always hard at first. So I was kind of just setting a number for an app, and then
Yeah,
I didn't know how to price software, especially AI built software.
it's so hard.
So I was like, all right, I just need a heuristic. I got to accept that I'm going to mess up. I'm going to make
Mhm.
each feature $750 or something. So I would do like a base price of 3, 4,000, and just list out the features they ask for and charge 750 for each of those. And I mean, that's nonsense because some features are 40-hour features and some are 8. And I knew that, but the
Yeah.
decision was pretty much like, do I accept this work and price it wrong, or do I spend 2 weeks being a nerd about pricing and then no guarantee it works? So that was kind of my misstep, and I just dealt with it by plowing through. And then just historically, like I had a marketing agency that I started before Stupid Simple Apps, and I still run it, but not hiring soon enough is probably the biggest mistake in business.
Really?
Um, I think in hiring's not easy. So that's one of the other things is like you need to start early because you're going to mess up. You're going to get bad candidates. You're going to get bad employees. So you gotta you gotta train that muscle of hiring and managing people. And then it's just your life is so much easier when you're like, holy cow, this thing that was taking 10 hours of every week, I'm just paying this guy to do it. And he's doing a great
Yeah.
job. And he's probably doing a better job because he's not juggling a bunch of other things. So hiring early and figuring out pricing is always
Hiring was the
harder.
hardest thing, dude. Last year, we fired 2 people. We
Uh,
hired and fired them in almost within a couple of months because there's a, and I don't know how you go about what's your process in hiring, but I think like
yeah.
for Frank and I, it's very, very obvious like demeanor wise with a
Yeah.
person. It's like, is this person going to show up? Like, are they collectively talking? Are they talking about us as like a we? Are they going to like try to do everything they possibly can to figure this thing out? Or are they really going to like silo themselves to what they think that they're good at and then not really try to expand out? And I mean, yeah, third time's the charm. Like we just hired our first person and she is an absolute rock star, mostly not because she's the best like social media
Yeah.
person or partnerships person or whatever. It's because she wakes up every day and she's just hitting the ground running,
Yeah.
trying to just figure it out. And that for me, I think, I don't know about you when you're hiring for stupid simple apps, but
Yeah, yeah. It just you can tell when you're talking to someone, and I think you kind of tend to hire not you specifically, but in general, people that kind of talk your language and are similar to you.
yeah,
So
definitely.
that's why asking how people would solve problems or think about things, I think, is super useful. And hiring super weird, as both of us are. Historically, our careers were in consulting,
Yeah.
and I don't know, maybe you hired people for your team. I would
Oh,
sit on interviews, but being like the person in charge is like, this is
consulting is
crazy.
consulting is so fake. It's insane,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I had one thing you were talking about your
yeah,
social person. And then earlier we are kind of talking about like user stories and how people can get sick reservations. But if you don't already, I feel like you should have her or open up something in the app or on the site or on your social for people to submit stories. Just record like a minute being like, I got this reservation through TableOne, and then this crazy thing happened. Like I saw a celebrity, or like I fell and dropped my pizza. You know what I mean? Just like I think it
That is
humanizes it.
so, that's actually super interesting. Literally have, and it's a part of the app where it's literally just people on the app that talk about their great
Well,
reservations,
maybe.
or
I'm not sure if you want to become a social media app, but I was thinking just for like your social feeds.
that's a really, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Honestly, we've kind of just heard those stories through the grapevine. We have a little feedback box. So sometimes people do just drop in, and sometimes people find us on LinkedIn and tell us. We had some guy who went to, it's a place in New York called the Corner Store. It's like pretty
Uh-huh.
new. And that was the night that Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and Blake Lively showed up.
Yeah.
And they walked literally in the aisle next to them. And he's just there with all of his friends.
Ah,
And he was like, dude, you made me look like the coolest person
ah,
in the world because
see?
we were there the
That's
night like
so
that
good.
happened.
That's an ad, dude.
I know, yeah. Honestly, I gotta, yeah. See, but this is the thing, right? This is why I have to hire somebody for social, because I don't have a brain for this thing, man. I have a product mind. Frank is an absolute wizard of an engineer and can honestly figure out almost anything there. But when it comes to thinking about that level of social, I haven't thought about that. So that's a good point. I'll bring that up with there.
Yeah, I think it's super easy and like genuine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the last thing I just wanted to ask about how you used vibe coding to raise your first round of funding. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. So full disclosure, the reason I did this is because for everyone here, it's like this story has not just been like this, right? It
Yeah.
has been like everywhere. And a lot of that has been with investor conversations. There have been probably like 3 or 4 different points of the TableOne story where it's like, we thought we were then about to take on investment and grow and, have money and security and all these things. And it's just kind of been rug pulled, or something
Yeah.
hasn't worked out. So I'd say back in February, late February, early March, we were in the very, very, very deep rounds of conversation. I want to say we did 5 or 6 conversations with this fund. And they were pretty much in. They were like, guys, we're willing to invest like $500,000. Here's kind of the terms that we're thinking about. One stipulation though, you have to start creating relationships with restaurants and all these things. And we said, that's not our model. Our model right now is insanely scalable. The model that you're
Gotcha.
pitching is
Yeah.
the model that you're pitching is, well, we have to then invest money into hiring a sales team, and then it's city localized, and that's just not what we want to do, guys. And if you guys don't want to do that, then there's no funding. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me, where I was just like, I'm so done with trying to fit into everyone's little box of why my business makes sense.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? We have crazy good metrics. At the time we were doing about 150K in ARR. Our operating margins before obviously Frank and I took money from the business, coming close to about 98, 99%.
Wow.
Obviously, I told you guys purely organic growth. Our download to paid conversion ratios were off the charts. And we had a roadmap. We had a roadmap that was like ready to be published and shown to the world and screamed from the rooftops that I was like, hey, if you guys fund this, like, here's what I'm going to do with it. So I kind of become obsessed with Lovable, like as everyone has. My buddy Trevor, who he texted me, he's like, dude, have you used Lovable? I was like, no. And I went on, and within like, I don't even know, I was on there for like 8 hours that day, just messing around. I blasted through my credits, but I came up with this idea like with Frank, and we were kind of thinking, okay, well, what if we created a pitch deck, essentially, that was a site, like an interactive pitch deck that then kind of said, all right, here's who we are. Here's our story. Here's our metrics. Here's our expansion plans, and here's the roadmap to do it. If you're interested, here's a little button that you can indicate how much you're willing to invest, and we'll start talking to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, we shipped it and we sent it as a push notification to our users. And within 48 hours of sending that notification, I think our goal originally was to raise 100 grand, just preliminary stuff, just to float the boat.
Yeah.
And within 48 hours, we had $400,000 of interest just from our users. And then that's when I was like, oh, this is interesting.
It's awesome.
So then I went to the Lovable subreddit and I put it on the Lovable, which, by the way, the Lovable subreddit only has 10,000 members now. It's really not that big. And that got over 100,000 views in like 4 days or something like that. Anton, the Lovable CEO, was like, in my DMs. It was featured on Lovable's page for the longest time, which was so cool.
Wow.
But all in investment interest, I think amounted to about $600,000 all said and done, which we've now closed on just with our users so far, but we've closed on 156 of that with now I think it's over $1 million in committed interest, like that we now we have to
Whoa.
make we have to make some serious decisions. But
Yeah.
it was purely based on that thing that we vibe coded in 2 days. I mean, it was
That
insane.
is so crazy.
Yeah.
So you made a Lovable landing page and sent it as a push notification.
That was it. And so,
Wow.
I mean, dude, the people who think, oh, they have to have these crazy, I feel like Cluely is now setting the standard and yeah, everyone's, oh, they're a marketing agency. That's an AI product. You don't have to have these blockbuster moments. I think it's like, you can just play to your own strengths. Like for
Yeah.
us, our push notifications always yield insane engagement because that's the model that works for TableOne, right? Where it's like, we send notifications to you.
Yeah.
So once our users saw, we kind of sent a notification that said own a piece of TableOne, and we know that we had a really
That's good. That's a
committed
good
user
hook.
base, right? It's like I mean, people hopped on that immediately, and so it's kind of just about understanding who your audience is. It's understanding what your product does, and understanding really you don't have to go the traditional route to get it done. It's there's so many different ways to, I guess, to slice the apple or whatever they say.
Slice the apple.
I don't know. I was gonna say skin the cat, but I think like someone at PETA would just get fucking pissed at me. So
Yeah, I think that's the saying. Or cut the pie. I don't know.
I don't know.
Uh, well, great. Thanks for coming on. This is episode 1 of Vibe Out. Thanks for
Dude,
the
vibe out
name.
is such, and I feel like it fits your vibe. Like you're just
Yeah.
kind of like you're chilling. You're just having a chill
Yeah.
conversation with a buddy. So
Yeah. This is great. Tell us where people can find you. Shill whatever you want.
oh hell yeah, dude. All right, so I recently joined Twitter because I had one in high school and college, and then honestly I got off because I didn't really like it anymore, and then I was told that it was bad for business for me to not be on Twitter. So find me on
By me.
Twitter.
Yeah.
By you, yeah, by Bill. Bill texted me. He was like, dude, I don't know what you're doing on LinkedIn. So I'm sure Bill will put my Twitter in there. But I'm also on LinkedIn where I talk about more formal business things sometimes and just kind of post general. I built all of TableOne in public on LinkedIn. So if
There we go.
there it is, 81 strong followers, guys.
It's gonna have a bajillion after this. And I will say, Tarek writes about his startup journey, and it's really useful and just interesting if you're interested in entrepreneurship. So definitely recommend following him and giving his blog a read.
Oh, thanks, Bill. Appreciate it, dude. But yeah, that's where you can find me. LinkedIn, Twitter, and
The
Medium
streets of
and
New
Beehive.
York.
And the streets of New York, exactly.